John Higby gave me a huge 1 year's worth of subscriptions on Patreon and sponsors today's video. Kellan the Kid versus Aragorn, Atraxa and Tatyova. It's funny, I asked for casual games here and people get so mad when I point out that I've asked for casual games, but it's funny when you come across Atraxa and Tatyova in such a game. Let's go for a mulligan on this. And of course, just get into a one-lander. 37 lands in this deck. So we go down a card and... yeah, that's not incredible. In fact, it's a pretty bad hand, but we've actually got mana. So we'll just have to keep this one, I think, and pray that we can actually do something. Put back the Tricycle land so that we can grab it with the fetch. Alright, and we draw a Rift, so it can be the Tricycle land. Atraxa plays Arcane Signet. Talisman of Creativity for the 3-colour deck. Alright, and another land for us, so we'll just get in the Shockland tapped and pass. And it's a Silverglade Pathfinder for the Tatyova. Cultivate for Atraxa. Aragorn is the first commander to hit play. So the Monarch is introduced over here, draws a card to it at the end of the turn. And that is a green slime, should be able to get that down easily enough. Nothing to cheat into play once we foretell it though. Once we cast it with foretell. So let's go for Kellan. We can maybe grab the Monarchy away from this player. During the next turn, that is. Obviously we don't have haste available to us. So the loose plan at the moment is to foretell this on the next turn and then either get down Tulane and cast the green slime into it, or we can go Natural Reclamation and get a free Cascade spell. That is a Thwart being discarded, and that allows them to get the island. And then decide to scoop. Awesome. We've seen an Eleanor, Mother of Machines, so that is going to switch off ETBs, unfortunately, which does include our green slime. Includes our Tulane as well. We are quite creature heavy in this deck, so we do want to see the back of Eleanor. Anyway, Aragorn swings in over there, and it makes it so that the Eleanor can't block. And then a Phantasmal Image, is that going to make a copy of the Eleanor? It is, so we've got two of the damn things to deal with now. Alright, and Aminatu's Augury, we're not getting into the ramp here. Let's go for Foretell onto the green slime. And then I think it has to be Path to Exile onto the Eleanor. We'll take the Monarchy away from this player. We'll hold on to the Path to Exile for as long as possible because these Eleanors will switch each other off, I imagine. So no one gets any ETBs. Might be that Atraxa uses some targeted removal onto this to get rid of it, then he can get a double ETB with something. Anyway, we steal the Monarchy away. Alright, and there's a generous gift. So we're getting into our targeted removal at least, which might be able to buy us enough time. Alright, Solemn Simulacrum, so yeah, for science we'll see how this works. We'll allow it. Yep, doesn't get the ETB on it. And now the 4/7 comes in towards us, alright, so do we take the damage here? Because we might be taking ETBs away from this player as well. Yeah, we'll take the damage for now, we can always path it afterwards. There might be some spot removal here as well. So we do allow them to take the Monarchy away from us. A Bloodthirsty Blade can go onto our commander, which means that we won't be able to take the Monarchy away very easily. And then Atraxa did tap down some blue mana there, so he's either bluffing counter magic or realised that he can't counter this with whatever counter magic he has. Maybe it was Swan Song is instant sorceries and enchantments, is it? Maybe that was it. Anyway, the blade goes on to Kellan, as you would expect. Aragorn to the left, and makes it so the Eleanor can't block. Curious that he didn't attack him with this, because he could have gone wide there and taken the Monarchy. So allowing Solemn to draw another card. And then Cloud Shift being played onto the Aragorn, so that will gain the Monarchy back. We've still got time to... I mean, we can't even play Tulane at the moment. Ideally, we get into a land, then we can play this and cheat in Tulane at instant speed. Do we need to hold on to the Path to Exile even longer? I think we're fine to do that, to be honest. Alright, and there's the land for us, so just playing the Tulane here is probably fine. We are goaded, so we have to go through to attacks and take the Monarch here. Oh, of course, I'm forgetting about the ETBs. Looks as though Terrax forgot about the ETBs as well. When it enters the battlefield, you become the Monarch. That doesn't happen with these Eleanors. So, yeah, it was a good thing that we kept it in play, apparently. So, we do manage to take the Monarch away from our opponent. And then it's play a land, we'll get another blue source out. We want as many basics in play as possible in this deck because we've got the Virtue of Strength, I think it's called. Yeah, this thing cares about the basic lands, making them tap for 3 mana. So we do have duels, but we'll go for basics as long as it's not hampering down our plays too much. Play the Tulane and hopefully be able to get rid of both Elesh Norns before we get any creatures down. And there is a Brazen Borrower, so if we were to target this with that, then it would counter the ability, and I don't think we'd be able to play the Fairy, but might be worth doing that instead of wasting a Rift or a Generous Gift. So we really are encouraging Atraxa to use some kind of interaction on this thing so that he can get his double triggers back. Unfortunately, we won't be able to respond like we could during the last turn cycle. Elesh Norn comes in to take the Monarchy again. We're not taking commander damage here, so the life gain on Kellan is absolutely relevant. Alright, a Toxic Deluge where X is 7, so just looking to wipe out the Elesh Norns there. So we've encouraged them to use that board wipe, like I said, but unfortunately losing out on the Tulane. And then an Honest Rutstein. I put this in a deck recently, and I can't remember which one it was now, but when it enters the battlefield, return a creature from graveyard to hand. We'll assume that that's the Elesh Norn, and it is. So still needs a path going onto it, and they stay at 7 cards thanks to the Monarch. Gonna be a long game, this one. Noteworthy that he has left a single blue up again. So we will expect a Swan Song, I think. Aragorn into play again in order to actually steal the Monarch. And shocking down a Hallowed Fountain, so wanting to equip the Bloodthirsty Blade onto the Honest Rutstein so that he can't take the Monarchy away with that. Could have blocked it with his commander anyway, and actually would have gained life with that, so I mean, he's dealing damage to us with this thing at least, but with 43 life, I suppose he'd rather we take damage than he gains life. Wouldn't mind a land here. Instead it's a Farseek. Yeah, seen Farseek this late. I think I'd rather just have the commander in play. Yeah, a whole lot of instants and sorceries available to us. I'm just looking over at the deck list now. We've got 30 creatures, 21 instants and sorceries, might be a bit rich, 5 artifacts, 6 enchantments. So that's 11 plus, that's 41 permanents, non-land permanents in the deck. And apparently we need fewer instants and sorceries so that we don't just draw into all of them here. Obviously Kellan cares about cheating in permanents. So Elesh Norn, Mother of Machines, back into play. Still not sure what they want to get the crazy ETBs with so desperately. And the 5-2 has to swing in at us, so we will allow it. A Nature's Law brings in a Forest untapped, unless it's a tapped Shockland, that is. Alright, there's a Treachery, and that's going to go on to that Elesh Norn, so here might be the Swan Song that we knew our opponent had. So that is, yeah, instant sorceries and enchantments. I always forget what that can target, but we remembered correctly this time. And then the Bloodthirsty Blade being equipped onto Kellan, so we could just attack in over here for the sake of gaining more life and threatening commander damage further. But I was looking at blowing that equipment up with the Natural Reclamation anyway, and now that we've dodged that Swan Song, we might be able to actually land it. The Aragorn is going to swing in and keep the Elesh Norn from blocking. Alright, there is a Deep Sea Kraken, which we want to be suspending as soon as possible really, but we're in a weird, tricky spot here. I don't think we're going to cheat anything down really. We could get into a 3-drop with this and then cheat in the Brazen Borrower. We're just lacking haste at the moment. Holding up mana for this to blow up the Bloodthirsty Blade could be a good idea. That could cheat in the Brazen Borrower. And that way we could Farseek this turn maybe. So yeah, let's Farseek, seeing as how we are missing land drops. I have to imagine that the Bloodthirsty Blade is going to be re-equipped at some point soon. Farseek always brings in a tap land, so we'll just make that a breeding pool. And then we're holding up all of our interaction basically, so yeah, we'll be goaded and swing in over here. Just have to make sure to blow up the Elesh Norn before we go for that slime play. But I'm not against whittling down the Atraxa player, to be honest, because, I mean, it's Atraxa. So got him down to 14 life, and it doesn't look like our fault at the moment. So we'll see if we can get the double triggers on the Elesh Norn and attempt at it here. 6 cards in hand. I wouldn't have thought he'd go for Atraxa, but maybe wants the life gain. It's good that Terrax is next in the turn order as well, because it means we can see if he's got any counter magic before we do anything. It doesn't look like he has anything, so we'll go path now onto the Elesh Norn. Okay, there's an offer you can't refuse. I mean, we'll take the treasure. That means that we can go for Generous Gift onto Eleshnorn. So I think that's fine. And I'll keep hold of a treasure just in case we don't go for the slime and we can make use of it next turn. Otherwise, we could have just held on to a treasure there and allowed all this nastiness to go on and then gone Aminatu's Augury next turn. Maybe we'll draw into a land next turn and be able to do that. Anyway, just one trigger from Atraxa is bad enough. So reveals to us a Yarok, a Void Rend. Yeah, I was thinking, is this some kind of weird clunky Phyrexia tribal version of Atraxa, seeing as how I asked for a casual game, but nope, it's just full on Atraxa. Void Rend, the Eternal Wanderer, Touch the Spirit Realm, Yorion, Ravenous Chupacabra, Felidar Retreat. So the 3-2 turns in at us, that's fine. And they did manage to get down a land there, so might be able to make use of more interaction against us. Counter something like an Aminatu's Augury. So it's noteworthy that, yeah, with that mana held up at the moment, of the cards we know about, they could exile our commander in response to the Augury so that we can't cast the spells for free into it. Not that we have all that many permanents to cheat down with it anyway. Don't have all that much use for Kellan's triggers at the moment, annoyingly. I know this can be a really good commander, it's just a case of having some decent luck with it in order to keep your hand full, and you need a bunch of permanents in hand before you do stuff like that. Jeska's Will with the commander in play, pointed at a player with 7 cards in hand. And of course this player has something to do in response. Swords to Plowshares onto Aragorn. Although looking in the log, I know that he kept the Felidar Retreat as the enchantment as opposed to the Touch the Spirit, which is an enchantment. He's got Yorion in hand, we've seen the Takenumar. He's got Eternal Wanderer and Void Rend as well. Sol Ring for the Monarch player. You see on top a Sticky Fingers and a Nadar. Alright, so River's Rebuke bounces everything back into Atraxa's hand. Not going to be able to deal that 4 commander damage to him, unfortunately, otherwise we'd have him at 5 next turn. So Nadar into play after that, and ventures into the dungeon when that enters play. So if he swings in with this, that'll be 5, 6, 7 damage, and then if we get this down regardless of not blowing something up, that's 9, 10, 11, 12, it's still not enough. Alright, we just had a quick conversation. The dungeon wasn't appearing for some reason, so I've just told Terax that sometimes people have to quit the client and then come back into the client and it will suddenly appear. I don't know how long dungeons have to be in the game before Wizards or Daybreak actually fix this, but there you go. I dare say there's not enough bodies to throw at the problem. This player scoops because he's the type of player that brings Atraxa to a casual game. Sticky Fingers goes onto the Nadar. And let me just make sure to remember to ban this player before we go any further. I'm amazed there's anyone left on Magic Online to actually play, to be honest. So the 2-2 flyer comes in towards us. And the dungeon they ventured into was the Tomb of Annihilation, by the way. Each player loses 1 life with that, so would have had the Atraxa very, very low anyway. But it would have bought each of us a turn with regards to attacks, because we would have had to dedicate it to Atraxa. And Swords to Plowshares onto the Kellan, so I'm going to get this down now so that we actually get the trigger. So Kellan the Kid triggers for the first time this game, I think. Green Slime is a 3-3, or it's a 2-2, it's a 3 mana creature. So we'll get down the Brazen Borrower for free, and we will not get the bounce on that unfortunately, but it's better to have the bodies, I think, especially when the Monarch's involved. So Kellan is now going to cost us 7 mana. And they draw up to 3 at the end of the turn. Decided not to equip the Bloodthirsty Blade onto the Brazen Borrower, so we can take the Monarchy away from them here. And there's a tap land for us. I've been trying to run tap lands a little bit more often now, but I do regret it more often than not. Yeah, I like these for the Discover, but how often during a game on Magic Online are you actually going to have the time to activate this? I think I'd rather just have an untapped basic, to be honest. Maybe put one of these caves in the deck. But we could have got our commander out here. Could have gone for an overloaded Cyclonic Rift as well. Gives us a chance to go for the suspend on this though, although it's nowhere near as good in 1v1. So we'll see if we can take the Monarch away from our opponent. He'll just take it straight back from us. So yeah, we'll suspend the Deep Sea Kraken. And that cares about an opponent playing a spell. Yeah, doesn't care about us, so not likely that we'll get that. We've got time to actually draw into a permanent. We can cheat in with this though at least. Got time to play our commander. Yeah, doing nothing else, so pass and see if we can draw into anything relevant with the Monarch. And that would have been nice, a Beanstalk Giant. That actually is something that we can cheat in with the Kraken. So the 3/3 with Menace is the only thing that needs to swing in here. And they will venture into a dungeon again. And this time it is Veils of Fear. Each player loses 2 unless they discard a card. We'll just go for losing 2 life. And we'll hold back the green slime just in case we want to block something bigger and scarier. Making a treasure token with the dart as well, thanks to hitting us. Faramir, Steward of Gondor. You become the Monarch with big creatures, and at the beginning of your end step, if you're the Monarch, create 2 humans. And then a bothersome Quasit as well. Goaded creatures your opponent's control can't block. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, goad a creature an opponent controls. And they are the Monarch, of course, so I've got to make a couple of tokens at the end of the turn. They're down to 1 card in hand at least, and our Cyclonic Rift is looking better and better. Well, they've got a decent amount of mana to just play everything out again straight away. So, with this, we are down to, that looks like 6 suspend counters on that, I think. And a Lotus Cobra, so do we get down our commander here? Get down our commander, and then during the next turn we can go for Lotus Cobra, Fertile Footsteps. That means we'll have 4 mana left up. Maybe we can drop a land and go for the Natural Reclamation as well. We'll do that. They'll likely equip this to our commander so that we can't swing in through the bird token with it, but we'll blow that up with the Natural Reclamation. And Optimus Prime now. When you attack, bolster 2. Target creature gains trample until the end of the turn. When it deals combat damage to a player, transform it. So the Quasit is going to be pointed at the Kellan. Alright, so we've got a couple of 3-powered Menace creatures, a couple of 1/1s. Yeah, I mean, if we're going to Rift anyway, we want as many bodies in play as possible. And then Sandfall Cell, each player loses 2 life unless they sack something, just taking the 2 life here. And the only thing we can block with here is a green slime anyway, so we might as well block that 1/1. And the damage lands, so Nadar, going to make a treasure token. Optimus Prime is flipped round. So drawing a card, making a couple of tokens, and then they'll get to bolster with the Optimus Prime as well. And 4 time counters on this now. Draw into a Search for Tomorrow, so yeah, I think we just have to ramp here. As much as I don't really feel like doing that here, I'd rather have got a land and gone for the Augury. But yeah, let's get down the Lotus Cobra. I'm just really treading water too much for my liking here. Suppose we could forego the Fertile Footsteps on this to try and cheat the big creature in with Deep Sea Kraken, and it might make a Cyclonic Rift much better. We might be able to do that during this player's turn if he casts enough spells, so maybe just holding up the Natural Reclamation would be a good idea. Can go for that onto the Optimus Prime, can't we? Yeah, against my better judgment we'll do that. And we are able to attack an opponent, so let's go in and see if they want to block the bird token. We'll try and take the monarchy away from them here. So bird token does trade with the Brazen Borrower. We gain a bit of life, take the monarch. And yeah, am I going to regret not having more mana? I don't know if the Natural Reclamation is really going to be of much relevance. We might not cascade into anything decent, and we can't cheat a permanent in anyway. Yeah, let's go for the more mana. We can at least try Aminatu's Augury next turn. And if we don't cheat in a Beanstalk Giant with the Deep Sea Kraken, then so be it. So we'll grab an untapped forest with the Search for Tomorrow. We'll trigger the Lotus Cobra, make a green mana, and then it's Fertile Footsteps as well. Obviously I'd like to have been doing all this way before turn 10, but I haven't had the best game unfortunately. So we've got a card in exile here that we will have to hardcast, but we do definitely have the mana for Aminatu's Augury next turn, so it's just a case of keeping our commander in play really. We draw a card to the monarchy. Optimus Prime going to bolster probably on a token. Yep, so there's a couple of 2/2 humans there now. And we draw into Dazzling Sphinx, which again in this board state is a bit too slow. Haven't built the deck for 1v1. Although that is something that we can now cheat into play if we do get to play this during the next turn or two. So if we can do that this turn, which isn't likely, but if we can do it this turn then we'll be able to swing in with this at least. There's the first spell, Azorius Signet, goading the Lotus Cobra, so looking to get rid of that thing. Should be able to block it easily enough. It does mean he's looking to hold back a blocker for it at least. Alright, and then swinging in with everything. Do we just throw away a Lotus Cobra here? Does get to complete the Temple or the Tomb of Annihilation. So it creates a 5/5 Death Touching Legendary God Horror. Can't block with Lotus Cobra. The green slime can block the 5/5 or the 5/9, I should say. So that's 6, 10, 14, 17 and 20 damage we're taking. And I doubt that we're coming back from this. Problem is, I don't want to go for Cyclonic Rift and then our opponent just counters it and that's the end of the game, because that would be very boring. And I don't think we're winning this one anyway, so we might as well do something a little bit interesting. Haven't had the best of luck trying to get games with Kellan, but haven't had the best of luck getting any games with Magic Online recently. So they take the Monarchy again making a couple of humans, and Optimus going to bolster. Alright, and there's a land for us, so yeah, what I should probably do here is go for Cyclonic Rift and test them on the counter spell, but I mean, I suppose they can counter Aminatu's Augury anyway. Whatever, play the land, make whatever coloured mana, because we're going to pretty much tap out into the Augury, and our opponent is holding up priority. Okay, but we're allowed to get it down, so we'll use Fabled Passage as a land, because obviously that can trigger the Lotus Cobra. Let's see what we've got here. Don't suppose the colour of mana really matters. Yeah, we've got a fat wad of nothing there anyway. Recurring Insight is slightly interesting, but yeah, we're just going way too slow here. Just say blue with Lotus Cobra. We'll crack the Fabled Passage and just make that an island for another blue mana. So for the fun of it, we'll go Recurring Insight, see if we can get into anything. We'll point that at our opponent for free, and that will trigger the Kellan, so that we can get down a Dazzling Sphinx. And we do have haste on the Lightning Greaves, so we could maybe get a board wipe or something from the Sphinx. Alright, that is a Make Your Own Luck. So we can't make use of a plot card until the turn after this one. So yeah, I don't think that's going to be of much use to us either. Can get additional lands into play here with Kellan at least. So creatures... yeah, we'll go for the Guardian Project first, because then we can play Beast Whisperer into the Guardian Project. So Kellan triggers, and this is where it's relevant that it can get a land into play for us. Play the Flooded Strand, comes into play untapped, make another blue mana, and then the creature can be a Beast Whisperer. So we'll just see what we draw into with this. Again, Kellan triggers obviously. This is why you want a full grip with Kellan really, because as great as cheating lands down is, we'd rather be cheating down big scary permanents, or decent permanents at least. Just add white now, we've got plenty of blue. Draw with the Guardian Project, with the Beast Whisperer entering, and that is an Urlock, which is something we could cheat in with a Lightning Greaves, so that's fine. We'll go for the Lightning Greaves now then. Kellan triggers again, gets down the Dr. Urlock, which will draw us another card, and it'll draw us a card on entry with the Guardian Project as well. There is a land and a Deep Analysis, which we can play from the graveyard, and it'll still be a 4 CMC spell when we do that. Try and equip Lightning Greaves onto the Dazzling Sphinx. So now we've got 4 mana floating, 5, 6, 7 is Cyclonic Rift, and then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I'd rather make use of the Lotus Cobra mana now, before we lose it. Although we won't lose it if Rift goes through, so whatever, just in case we'll crack the Flooded Strand here, down to 3 life, grab a Tundra, make a green with Cyclonic Rift, and then we will overload on that, ready to attack. Alright, and then it's 3 to attacks. I'm still not hopeful that we'll win this one, but we've got to show off what you can do with Kellan at least. It's our opponents to win this one. So we gain a bit of life from the Kellan. I was wondering if to include like the Black Blade Reforged or something like that, because we could threaten commander damage and gain a bunch of life. I might include the Black Blade Reforged. Take the Monarch from our opponent. Not for long, I imagine. And then Dazzling Sphinx will steal an instant or sorcery. And we have taken from them a Mob Rule. So there's an argument to be made for us not putting this in the bin with the Jeskai deck and leaving it in exile, but we can untap our creatures as well. Because it's all creatures it affects. So yeah, let's untap the 3 powered creatures, just in case our opponent gets some hasty creatures down, and that's of any relevance. Kellan is a flyer, so it also triggers the Mob Rule, of course. So say no to Kellan. We have drawn into another land, so we can get that down. Triggers the Lotus Cobra during the damage step, unfortunately, so don't have anything to point at with the Nature's Law, or the Natural Reclamation I should say. So we just have to see if it's relevant that we put Mob Rule in the bin for our opponent there. Might be able to flash it back or something. Yeah, so with 5 mana available to us, I suppose a Make Your Own Luck would be okay now. And that is a Release to the Wind, which I have high hopes for with certain cards. Nothing in play is really of any relevance, but we cleared a couple of lands off the top at least. So we can play Release to the Wind for free if we want to. And we've got more lands available to us with the Lotus Cobra intact. Would I rather keep Kellan in play at this point than the Sphinx? I think so. As great as it would be to keep the Sphinx in play, I think Kellan is too relevant here. So with a bit of luck, we've managed to survive for another turn here. There is a Tatyova, a bit more life gain for us is excellent. And this thing only has 2 counters on it now, so we'll be able to cheat in the Tatyova with that if our opponent goes for 2 spells here, which you have to assume he's going to. I mean, he has to play more than 2 spells. I think he only had 2 cards in hand, so 3 mystery cards sort of. Might have got into a board wipe or something. So there's Sol Ring. There's every chance that we're playing into a board wipe if we get down Tatyova, but I think we just have to go all out here and attempt to get back into this. We'll at least draw cards on the entry of the creatures. Aragorn going to come in and steal the Monarch, and comes in with a Deep Sea Kraken. So cast without paying the mana cost, and that triggers the Kellan, pretty much cheats in anything, any permanent in our hand into play, because that's one of the, might be the biggest permanent in the deck. Or maybe not. There's an Apex Devastator. What's that? 10? Yeah, they're both 10. So I think it's cast with this, is it? You may cast a permanent spell. And Cascade cares about cast, so I think we have to do it here. Even if our opponent wipes the board and somehow gets rid of us here, I mean, this is just everything that we want to do in the deck. Not particularly interested in winning, it's just showing the decks off that I'm really bothered about. And we might be able to do what I've always wanted to do since I built this deck. Release to the Wind is exile, and then you can cast the spell that you exile for free, which includes an Apex Devastator. So we might be able to do that here. Anyway, cascading into a Horned Lock Whale. So we'll cast that, might as well. That can cheat in the Tatyova as it happens. So triggering Kellan. Or we could get a Savvy Trader if we wanted to. That can get a permanent, I think. Yeah, exile a permanent from your graveyard. I mean, I don't mind hard casting that, I don't think. Although with the Tulane, we could cheat something into play with Tulane. Now we'll get down the Tatyova because we might be cheating in lands into play. And I'd rather cantrip and gain life with those. There's a Doom Scar for us, just in case. Yeah, maximising the amount of life we gain with Tatyova would be good. So draw with the Guardian Project upon entry with Tatyova. There's a land. Draw with the Lock Whale entering. And another land. And that was on the first cascade. Now it's a Sage of the Beyond on the second cascade. So triggers Kellan and the Beast Whisperer again. Draws us into a Stormkeld Vanguard. Would we rather hold up the destruction of an artifact? Yeah, I think we would. We'll get down the Savvy Trader to this, which draws us into a land off the Beast Whisperer. Guardian Project triggers the Savvy Trader. I think will grab us the Tulane, I'm thinking. Yeah, it's just fetches the green slime, Brazen Borrower. I think it has to be Tulane. We'll likely cheat that into play at some point during all this. Also, it's noteworthy the static on this makes our spells from anywhere other than the hand cost 1 less. Draw with Guardian Project when the Sage of the Beyond enters. There is an Emoti. We're getting some very good cascades here. Drew into the Slick Shot, by the way, so we can plot something from the graveyard. So we get Cascade on Emoti. We have no idea what's on top of the library, or this is just pretty much random. 41 cards left in the deck. And Emoti gets us into a Rhystic Study off the Cascade, which triggers Kellan as well. So how is this worded? Target instant or sorcery in your graveyard gains flashback until the end of the turn, so we don't want to be doing that. Let's say no. We'd rather get down a fetch here, I think, so that we can gain life and draw more. So that makes mana with Lotus Cobra, which I'm not sure is going to be relevant. We are in the main phase though, so our opponent might want to play relevant artifacts or enchantments. We'll add green for the Natural Reclamation. Draw with the Tatyova into another fetch. Rhystic Study just makes life harder for our opponent unless he wants to try and mill us out. And there is a Key to the Vault as well. I think we can just hard cast that, so we'll say no, get more lands in. Play an Arid Mesa. Draw with Tatyova, make mana with the Cobra. Emoti finally enters, which will cantrip on the Guardian Project. And that's a Smothering Tithe. So I don't think we're going to have any mana issues anymore. Cascade, I don't know what the last Cascade was there, it just kind of flicked through it. Anyway, creatures entering, the Apex Devastator and the Deep Sea Kraken, all cantripped. And finally, Aragorn gets to enter. Drew into Behold the Multiverse, which is a means of playing a 4-mana spell from exile. Drew into Chimil as well, which could be good against our opponent, but I don't think he'll be able to hold up counter magic anyway. And there is a Phyrexian Metamorph, which we can blow up here. Say yes to Rhystic Study, go down to 32 cards in the deck. I think we might have exiled our Reliquary Tower previously. Yes, we did, because we decided to go for a Fabled Passage instead. That is an Ethereal Valkyrie, which can foretell a big spell, and we do have haste in play. Alright, they decided to take the Lightning Greaves, so let's go for cracking a fetch or two here. I don't know if we've got fetchable targets actually. Yes we do, we've got plenty, so that can be... We'll leave a Plains for the Arid Mesa, we'll go for a basic Forest. Makes mana with Lotus Cobra, draws again. Draw into one of our board wipes in the Realm Cloaked Giant. Then Arid Mesa does the same thing for that Plains. In fact, we can just make it a tap land, I think, because we don't need the surplus mana here. And we are worried about our life total a little bit. And this time Tatyova draws us into an Augur of Autumn, which we're nowhere near caring about at this point. Blow up the Lightning Greaves and we'll get a Cascade for our efforts. Cascades us into a Dryad of the Elysian Grove, which allows for an additional land drop. The only card in the deck that allows for that, because we're very much reliant on Kellan to get us our additional lands. So Kellan can cheat in... Could go for a Wood Elves with that. Draw into a Snap Mage. I think we're going to one-shot our opponent, otherwise we'd go for the Key to the Vault. Let's just go for another mana with the Wood Elves, thanks to Kellan's ability to get the Dryad in. So it's another untapped Forest and even more cantrips. We're going to be below 20 cards in the deck here, so we'll have to be careful. There's no more Forests. Yeah, there's one Plains as a fetchable target, but I don't think it's going to be of any relevance. So that comes in, it's Lotus Cobra and Tatyova again. Guardian Project triggers once again on the Dryad entering. And we've got access to a Beast Within now as well. So blowing up the Lightning Greaves, our opponent couldn't swing in if he wanted to. So we'll leave it there and we'll try and get the Alpha Strike on our opponent next turn. We can go for the Path to Exile with the Snapcaster Mage. Our opponent draws a card to the Monarch. Could have a means of countering us with something like a Fierce Guardianship. I don't think he's going to do too much to us, but I'll probably get down Chimil just to try and help along the fact that he's hopefully not going to do anything. Alright, so down to 20 cards in the deck. We draw into that Plains. So we'll play this first of all. I'm not going to waste my opponent's time if I can help it. I just want to try and guarantee the fact that we're getting through here. So that is a big Cascade spell thanks to the Emoti. Gets us into a Kodama's Reach. I'll just say no to that because it's just going to take too long, but we could cheat more lands into play and all that and just continue all the triggers. Just simply trying to keep my things from being countered. And then it's Snap Mage. Haven't drawn into the enchantment that gives us triple mana during all this, which is unfortunate. Alright, there's a mana crypt for us if we need it. So Snap Mage onto the Path to Exile. Draw with the Project, that is a Raven form. Path to Exile now has flashback, so we'll put it on the Aragorn just to get it out of the way. Haven't actually done the maths on how much damage we can deal here, I'm just hoping that it's enough. So Kellan can cheat. We'll say no to the Mana Rock. We can play that whenever we want. Just play a dual land. Draw down to 17 with Tatyova. Can't say no to her, by the way. Alright, so it's 22 with these alone. 25, 30. Yeah, we've definitely got enough, so put our opponent out of his misery. We'll waste that one mana that we just made with the Lotus Cobra. Attack him with everything. And there's no attack triggers, thankfully. So as ever, I do thank Terax for playing it out because There is no way in hell a random Magic Online player would have allowed us to see all that. And that is a hell of a comeback with Kellan the Kid, if I do say so myself. So very grateful to him allowing the audience to see that. And you must thank Atraxa in the comments section if you've made it this far. Yeah, so a great sport as ever. Big thank you to the patrons for their support of the channel as well. You can do that yourself via the link in the description below if you enjoy these videos. And I will see you all in the next one, I hope. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.